evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your flagship Sunday night Gersnet weekly podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Gray. This is the Independent Rangers podcast made for fans, by fans, and all of our content is free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk, where you can see our forum, some good articles, and a history archive as well. You can also get us on Twitter at Gersnet Online as well. Just before I introduce my wonderful guest this evening, I also need to give a shout out to our partners over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They are a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company, and they've been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted they're backing our pod. You can get them over at forrestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Here today to discuss all the happenings of a 3-0 victory in Dingwall earlier. Start off introducing guest. First up, Chris Jack. Chris, how are you doing after that one today?
I managed to avoid the trip to Dingwall, so any afternoon where Rangers win 3-0 and you don't have to go to Dingwall is always a good one. So a bit under the weather in terms of the cold, but apart from that, all good.
I think going up there might have made it worse. I sold my ticket for this one as well, so you can slag me in the comments about how I'm not that loyal a supporter, because I don't want to get up at 4 o'clock on a Sunday. But other guest this evening, Mr. Stewart Weir. Stewart, how are you doing, sir?
Good evening. I'm surprised that Christopher gave up his opportunity for a long weekend at the Dingwall Hilton, especially with the en-suite facilities that he could have got himself with all his gold card membership. So always a surprise not to go to Dingwall.
Overnight trips to Dingwall are a thing of the past, unfortunately. It's an up and down.
Listen, even when they were a thing, I still avoided them. So it's not as if you're actually queuing up outside in various night spots and saying, I'm on the guest list. No, you're not.
Oh, brilliant. We all managed to avoid that one today in person, but we did manage to see it on the telly. Chris, I'll start with you then. In terms of the starting 11, there was one change from that great performance midweek against Killie. Barron came in for Diamande. I think a lot of people were a wee bit disappointed in that, not because Barron has been playing badly, but I think it's a whole two sitting midfielders away to Ross County. And plus as well, it would have just been nice to see the manager pick the same team for 2 games in a row after you've done so well on Wednesday. But what was your thoughts on that 11?
I think you have to look at what's coming up on Thursday and then next Sunday. Now, Diamandi's going to have a part to play. Barron's clearly going to have a part to play. You look at Nico Raskin and you say if he's fit, he plays from the start in all 3 games. If he can get through all 3 games, that's certainly a boost to Rangers. And outside Diamandi, they're just not another option. I did see the reaction to Conor Barron starting, and wondered what would it have been like if it was Kieran Dowell's name that was there instead, because that's really the only alternative that the manager's got. He was not going to go he could have been bold and gone for like a Bailey Rice. That's not really his style. It was really unlikely he was going to do that. So didn't have too big a problem with it. And it did just put a bit more emphasis on that front 4. You had Jay Cherney, Igaman, and Danilo. You're basically saying to them, you're the guys that are going to have to win us this game. The midfield will try and give us as much control as possible, but the onus is on you as the attacking 4. Go and try and win the game. But I think you have to look at what's coming up. If it wasn't Spurs on Thursday and Celtic on Sunday, you could easily have gone with the same side, and the same side deserved to start after the last couple of games. But for me, it wasn't too big a shock.
No, I think you're right there. Although I did get a wee bit of a scare when I think they mentioned after about 2 minutes that Nico Raskin was a booking away from a suspension. I'm like, oh God, did we have to start him? You just thought that something was going to happen that would get him booked, but thankfully he avoided that. Stuart, we done our usual slow start in these games, but we came up with the first goal after I think it was 5 or 6 minutes. Egeman again. Ball in from Yefte, and he just takes a swipe at it. It's hit on target anyway. I think Neil McCann said it was a wicked deflection. Don't know if it was maybe as strong as that, but takes a nick off the guy and it goes into the top corner. Great start for us and a great start for him now that he's starting to get a run in the team.
Yeah, you don't need to impart much contact on a ball to make it spin. You know, you see that in cricket, you see it in snooker and billiards and the likes. You just hit it in the right spot. It took a fraction of a deflection probably off a stud. And you could tell almost immediately the ball had taken a bit of a touch. And as much as it went up in a kind of loop and dropped so quickly with the top spin it was on it, hence the reason the goalkeeper wasn't anywhere. You take those bits of luck and sometimes go against you. You know, it can have been deflected and hit the bar or hit the goalkeeper or whatever it is. So you take it when it's going. And I hear what you're saying about the kind of slow start. I think the slow part of it came after the initial goal. I think it was almost then, go for the jugular. No, it was almost like, let's not lose anything now and go through the motions and go through the gears. And it worked out. It worked out in the end, but there was still that kind of hiatus mid-game where you had to look at the scoreboard to make sure that Rangers were 1-up and sort of in control.
Yeah, I think the only difference about this time is that you're not shouting the ball on the telly because you're at least a goal up at this point. So you're certainly not as nervous as you are when the game's 0-0 when you're playing that way. But as you say, it all works out in the end, doesn't it? Chris, Stuart mentioned that sort of slow start and then slow mid-start after we got the opening goal. It is becoming a theme of our performances this season. Even Wednesday, we were great on Wednesday, but that was mostly in the second half. The first half was good, but it wasn't amazing. And obviously, Tab scored late into that first half. Why is it this Rangers team just can't seem to start games amazingly well, and especially in first halves? Now, it might sound a wee bit, weird to say that today after we went 2-0 up in the first half, but the performance in the first half certainly wasn't a classic, and we need to be honest, it's a continuing theme that we've seen throughout this entire season.
The formula for domestic games is fairly straightforward. It's also easier said than done, unfortunately, as Rangers have shown. But you get the first goal, and that breaks the resistance of the opposition. Once you get the second one, it should be a matter of how many are you going to go in and win by. You should not be throwing away 2-goal leads. Rangers have done previously, obviously, didn't do it. They didn't do it this afternoon. I felt they were always comfortable enough, but County did cause them the odd problem. But I didn't really think there was anything in there in terms of County were ever going to get anything from the game. You look at the kind of half chances had, you had a couple of nice moments. The Germany one was he's played down the right channel, probably should have done better. Apart from that, it's not as if they're peppering the goalkeeper with shots, and he had to pull off a whole host of them. And ironically, it's the goalkeeper that also gifts them the second. What he's doing, what he's thinking he's doing, I'm not quite sure, but you have to give a lot of credit to Danilo for being alert to it, pressed them well, closed them down well, finished it from quite a tight angle as well. And at that stage, I say it's game done, and Rangers are not going to go in and make the mistake of losing it since then or after that. Sorry. But as you say, it would have been nice if they'd shown a bit more threat in between the two goals, just to kind of go and try and put it to bed a wee bit earlier. But it didn't come back and cost them on this occasion.
Yeah, Stuart, Chris mentioned that second goal there, obviously a howler from the goalie. Both goals today and the one at St Johnstone last week, they do have an element of luck about them. The first one does take it. I do think with that first one, I think if it doesn't make the deflection, then I think it's a comfortable save for the goalie. So, we'll take it, and we'll certainly take the second one as well. I genuinely think, and I've said this a lot of the times, that we, the last few years, have been a generally very unlucky club. We've made a lot of honking decisions, both on and off the pitch, but I just think sometimes we've had really rotten luck as well. And we don't get usually breaks of the ball like we have the last couple of weeks in the league. And also as well, having three highly paid strikers that are fit, and they're also scoring goals. All three scored on Wednesday. Both your strikers scored again today, and they're in a wee bit of form. I'm a general believer that in life, in football, you always make your own luck, but sometimes you just need wee things to go your way now and then, and it's not a bad thing to have, especially at this stage of the season.
Yeah, show me somebody, a team or a sportsman who's never had luck in his side at some point in time, and I'll show you a first. Rangers are the exception here. Gary Player said the better I get, strangely, the luckier I get. Sometimes there's not any sign of Rangers getting better, but they have been kind of fortunate. The second goal, I did tweet, this is why goalkeepers wear gloves. The kicking the ball 30 years ago was alien to a goalkeeper, and now they've been asked to turn into Franz Beckenbauer at the back and control things as well. And sometimes you take a bad touch or you overhit the ball and it's out of your reach. And that's all that happened today. These things do happen to the best of goalkeepers. And fortunately, on this occasion, Rangers took full advantage. And to agree with Chris there, I thought as soon as that ball rolled over the line, that was it, game done. You could almost sense as well with the expressions on the Ross County players' faces that they still thought they were in the game at 1-0. And when that second goal went in and the circumstances behind it, that was just an absolute killer for them. And there was no way back. I mean, Ross County, teams will create chances against you. Unfortunately for Rangers, they seem to assist in that front. There can be teams who are not in the game and Rangers will make a mistake and all of a sudden they're having a panic clearance or a keeper's going to have to make a save. There was nothing in that team today, Ross County, that even looked mildly threatening. And again, half-time 2-0, it was only a matter then of how many goals Rangers might score in the second half. As it was, they didn't run riot, they scored a goal, they won comfortably and job done. But it was, I think the goals came at an important time. First of all, to get Rangers moving in the right direction. And then just before half time, I don't think Ross County had the stomach for it after that.
No, I agree. The second half, I do think it was a wee bit better than the first half in terms of chances created. Eagleman's created a couple kind of out of himself. Cherny's had one, and I don't think he was great today, but I suppose he's been in good form the last few weeks. Everybody's entitled to a bad game. Just don't have a bad game on Thursday or next Sunday, please, Vassland. Save it for Ross County away. But no, generally, Chris, the second half was comfortable, and we managed to get the third goal. And it's an absolute screamer from Tav, who is slowly but surely getting back to really good form. He's had his critics this season, including myself, and I think rightly so. But to be fair to him, he's coming into a good spell of form at the moment.
I think he's seen the benefit of not having to play every single minute of every single game. The manager spoke about that in pre-season and about the toll that has taken on him over the course of his Rangers career, not being asked to do too much, almost being badly managed, if you like, by a succession of Rangers managers that are just say, well, Tav's fit, he'll play, he'll get through minutes, he'll get through game after game after game. Eventually it's going to catch up with you. At the start of the season, we clearly saw it as it had caught up with him. And no matter how many times he sits in pressers and says he's good to go 3 games a week, it's not the right thing for him anymore. He may want to do it, he may feel that he can do it. There may be numbers, to use a modern phrase, that say he can do it, but it's not the right thing for him. But it's not the right thing for the team. I think Dujon Sterling, if you were to give us, if you have to say to Clement, give us a first choice, Sterling is the first choice right back. Come Thursday night, I expect Sterling to start. Come Sunday, I expect Sterling to start. That doesn't mean to say that you write Tav off completely and he's going to have no role to play for Rangers between now and the end of the season. So he might not be the man for big European games to start them. He might not be the man to start top finals anymore, but he can still play a key role by starting Ross County away or Kelly at home or games of that nature. And he shouldn't take that as too much of a slight. No, every player goes through this period. Every player slows down. Time catches up with all of them. Tavernier is going to be no different. But that doesn't mean to say that you have to end his Rangers career right now. He will still have a part to play. And the flip side of that, Rangers need to see Dujon Sterling being able to play more of a part more regularly. So obviously coming off the back of another niggle, missing a couple of games, for me this is a bit of a concern. He has to start stringing the games together.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing as well with Tav. He's not really been helped with the fact that any possible replacements that he's had are constantly injured. Obviously, Weir's out for the season now. Sterling, niggle here and a niggle there. So let's be honest, they two are going to be rotating for the rest of the season unless we sign another right back in January, which I can't really see us doing, or if the manager plays Adam Devine more, which I also don't think he fancies him. So I think Tab's going to be getting a lot more game time than maybe what people were expecting. But I don't think next Thursday, next Sunday's maybe the time to be start to give him more game time. Sure, what have you made of his mini renaissance, and would you start him next week in both games?
No. But listen, whatever you think of Tavernier and his contribution over a period of time, I mean, the guy, you would really have to hit him with a shovel to stop him. I mean, he comes on, he starts games, or comes on as subs, he's still scoring goals. I mean, his contribution as far as that goes has been, invaluable for a long time. I'd like to think he's professional enough to realise that there are others that are probably playing better than him. Therefore, I'm not saying he's a bit part player. He's still got an important part to play, but the opportunities and chances will be fewer. He, I alluded to this a few weeks ago. I thought that Tierney came on to more of a game as an individual when Tavernier wasn't in the team. I think maybe Tavernier at some times was a bit of a hindrance, either charging past, the winger, or suddenly turning up and wanting the ball off him, sort of type thing. I don't think Tierney was terribly enamoured by that. And I thought when Tavernier was actually dropped to the bench, Tierney came on to more of a game. I don't think he was that great today, but you'll forgive him having a slight hiatus against Ross County away compared to the couple of matches that are about to come in the next week. But again, Tavernier, whether he's holding out or hanging out, or whether he deserves it or not, the whole thing about he'll be there for his testimonial. He's done 10 years at the club. Others have done 10 years and get a testimonial out of it. Again, whatever you think of his success rate or whatever it is, he's done his time, and therefore should be rewarded for that. And to my mind, but I think we'll see, less and less of him. Probably after he's had his testimonial, he'll go and sign for, Wigan or something like that. But anyway, until that point in time, he still has a part to play.
I think if he's going to sign for anybody after his testimonial, it will be the B team. That wouldn't surprise me. No, I mean, he has came onto a game the last few weeks, but again, my concern with him, it's never been these games against Ross County or Killie. I think he's fine for games like that, and sometimes you might need him for these games, but it's the games against a higher quality opposition, more so Celtic and Dyson Maida, because he's proven over the last year or two he just can't play against him or play against Celtic. So, we cannot keep doing the same things heading into next Sunday's League Cup final as we have in the past.
I don't know if it's coincidental, the fact that Tavernier hasn't been there, but Rangers have now become more of a two-sided team. They play down the left far more than they did when Tavernier was the kind of mainstay at right back, and everything seemed to be channeled down the one side of the pitch. Now, that might be the change in personnel. It also might be that people are starting to spread passes a wee bit wider to both sides of the pitch because they're not under pressure to supply one man and give one man the chance to score goals or create goals. So I think there's maybe a different dynamic to the Rangers team just now when Tavernier doesn't start.
No, I think you're right there. And I mean, it's obviously a great help having a right back that can score all these goals, but at the same time, it's been a hindrance as well, because if you're putting all your eggs into one basket with one particular player, and that's never good at the best of times, but for it to be a right back as well, we did always look a wee bit one-dimensional. And I mean, even if you look at something like a classic Tav goal, the full-back to full-back, Barisic to Tav into the back post, you never really got that the other way around. Barisic would chip in with a goal now and then, but he would never do what Tav done in terms of making those forward run and getting on the end of balls. Barisic is maybe a sort of a free kick or a set piece or something like that in terms of him scoring the goal. So I think you're right in terms of we are seeing a different dynamic to this team. We're also seeing as you mentioned there, a guy in Cherney, a right winger who's actually contributing with lots of goals and lots of assists, something that we've not had for years. Even Daniel Candais, as much as he was a decent player and he was definitely a workhorse, he wasn't getting the numbers and didn't have the quality that Cherney has. So to see guys, someone on that right hand side, apart from Tav actually chipping in and getting goals and assists, I think it's great. But no, the debate will always continue with him, but we'll see what's going to happen with that on Thursday. Chris, after the game, manager made a few comments that caused some controversy online, as they always do. And sure, I think he was asked about the upcoming big week that we're about to embark on. And I think he said the words of the two games are maybe a little bit far away from us financially, or words to that effect. Do you think it was wise for him to come out and say that after that game today?
Right, after you're beating Ross County with the financial disparity that you have over Dunkerry, no, I don't. I think it was I'm not really sure what point he was trying to make, why he's trying to almost get his excuses in early, but I don't think it was the right thing for him to say. It was never going to endear him to the Rangers fans. They're not going to buy into it. I think the last couple of weeks he said a few silly things, and I think things that he perhaps shouldn't have done. He's mentioned like 2012 a couple of times. Keeps mentioning this kind of young squad, even though the average age is around about 27, and there's guys that have played for England and Nigeria, and guys that have got huge international experience, played in top leagues in the world in that squad. So I think sometimes and the points, whatever he's trying to make, doesn't quite land. I don't think he's trying to play mind games or anything like that. I just think he makes silly points at times, and so that one this afternoon, it almost kind of took the air out the balloon. I think everybody was fairly happy, was fairly content with what they saw. They then watch his press conference, and it puts a slightly different slant on it.
Yeah, I think that's a couple of good points there. Stuart, what were your thoughts on his comments?
My first thought was, who is doing the media at Ibrox just now? Because as soon as he started speaking and started to saying these things, a big shepherd's crook should have come out and grabbed them around the neck and pulled them off camera. I mean, it was ludicrous. The last couple of weeks, Chris is right. He has said some things that have left you slightly aghast at a manager actually thinks this way. Age of the squad, more players, newer players, and fresher team, and all the rest of it. You say these things on a basis of knowledge. Either he doesn't know his own team or his own stats, or he's just making it up. Today was utterly bizarre. Can you imagine being part of the hospitality, group at Ibrox just now, trying to sell some tickets or boxes or whatever it is that might be remaining for the Spurs game, and he comes out and says that? You're going to be saying, am I going to spend my money at Rangers on Thursday night? No, I don't think so. I just thought it was utterly bizarre. If he is struggling to explain because of a language difficulty, just don't say anything. You've beaten Ross County 3-0. Just talk about that. Don't talk about anything else. Don't overcomplicate things. But the last couple of weeks, it's almost been like he's been making excuses or adding things to the list of charges that might be levelled against him should at some point he be handed his P45. It just doesn't sound right and definitely doesn't look right.
Okay, let's play devil's advocate then for all of yours at home that were backing the manager's comments. Stuart, there might be people out there that say that, well, you've been saying this for the whole season as well. It's a rebuild. Spurs have got loads more money than us. We've been saying that we can't compete with Celtic, so why is it okay for us as fans to say it, but not the manager to say it?
But you take light with light. Take the Celtic example, for instance, in comparisons there. Yeah, Celtic are probably a better run, they are a better run business, but they've been paying, Rangers have paid out more in wages. To even utter a comparison between yourselves and Tottenham is beyond me. Rangers on an extremely good season. Look at what their turnover is. Then look at what Tottenham have got, either through what they get through the English top flight of a season, or by hosting NFL matches. So you're comparing sort of apples and turnips here, and I think he just got off at the wrong tack on that one. I tried to understand what he was saying, but no, and the fact is, Rangers fans that are trying to defend him, what he's saying, have you forgotten what your history is as well? Rangers manager was never made any of those comparisons previously, simply because they thought they could take anybody on toe to toe. And I thought it was an admission of slipping standards at Ibrox, and even down to the manager that they're now employing.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting as well, considering the comments that he personally made at the AGM a few days ago about standards, and then you hit out with that. I mean, yeah, the Spurs one, I can maybe understand what he's trying to say, but at the same time, I don't buy tickets for Ibrox to go and watch the opposition. I don't care who it is. I go and buy tickets to Ibrox to sadly watch Rangers put me through a hard time instead of the opposition. I don't care who's coming to Ibrox and playing. I'm only interested in Rangers. The Celtic one is definitely concerning because whilst, yeah, Celtic are much better run than Rangers, they've got a better squad than Rangers. I've got no doubts about that. It's a one-off game in a cup final. And let's be honest, if you're looking at some of the money and some of the quality of player that we have got, we should be able to compete in that game. I'm not saying we should be able to go and win it. We all want to win it. It's going to be a difficult game, but you need to go out there and give it your best shot. And if you think that, you've got no chance of winning it, you're as well not showing up. You're as well not paying the money to go to Hampden next Sunday that, 20-odd thousand Rangers fans have done, and hospitality clients as well. So, I don't know if it was, like you say, Chris, I don't think it was mind games as such. Maybe he's trying to protect the players. I heard somebody say that. I don't know. But it's odd. And yeah, some of the things that he is starting to say is a wee bit weird. I try not to get sort of overrun by press conferences anymore, because a lot of it is just, tit for tat, and it's a bit of a show at times. But yeah, I mean, basically saying that you can't compete with your greatest rivals a week before what is a massive, massive cup final. I find that a bit odd, but here's hoping that whatever he said there today somehow works, and we can do it next Sunday. But we do have a game in the meantime, Chris. Tottenham on Thursday. It is a big game, of course it is, but let's be honest, I think if you offered people a win in either one of those two games, it's always going to be Sunday. But it's a Battle of Britain. I don't remember facing Tottenham before in a competitive game. So that's
way back.
Obviously, you can. What's your memories of that then, Stuart?
I read about it. There's a thing called the internet and books.
I thought you would have been at it. When they were saying about Rangers' first European match against Nice a couple of weeks ago, I thought you would have been at that yourself. But
ho.
Well, first time I played them competitively in a while, let's just say. But it's interesting, you mentioned earlier, Chris, about the change for Barron coming in, that we've got the games coming up in the next week. We know a couple of guys can't start. Danilo can't play, Hadji can't play. What do you think the manager's going to do with that team on Thursday?
Change it because he has to, and change it because that's just what he does. Even if everyone was available, you would expect him to go and change it anyway. It probably sums up Rangers this season, that they've almost stumbled upon this front four that have looked a lot better in the last couple of games. You then come into a big game in Europe and a couple of them are no longer there. Obviously, Hadji not in the squad, Danilo not in the squad. It then becomes the Cyril Dessers play. Does Barami come back in? Does Mohamed Diomande come back in? I think at the back there's a decision to make as well. Can you get 3 games a week out of Leon Balogun? If you decide that you can't, then he has to be rested with Sunday in mind, because you don't want Robin Cropper anywhere near the Old Firm game at the weekend. So I wouldn't be surprised if Cropper comes in and plays centre half on Thursday. This doesn't fill me with huge confidence, it has to be said, but I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. After that, there's not really a a whole host of guys that are chaperoning the door. The players that have come in, likes of Danilo, likes of Hadji, as I say, not there. It'd be nice to see Igaman start, but he's almost like a case of, well, you're like him to start against Celtic. So do you pick a side for Thursday with Sunday in mind, or can you afford to, because you know that if Spurs come and Postecoglou goes with a really strong side like he could do, it could go badly for Rangers. Flip side, it could go well. It takes a huge confidence boost, and you then bounce into Sunday on the back of a memorable night at Ibrox. So it's a really kind of fine line for a manager of trying to get a result on Thursday, not doing anything too complicated. Don't overthink it, but obviously with all focus on Sunday as well. Because as you said at the top there, Craig, it's so obvious what the must-win game out of these two is. Narby spoke about this: 3 games and 3 competitions over 7 days. Spurs is it's a great tie, but they had to win today. They have to win on Sunday. They don't necessarily need to win on Thursday. I think if there's a performance there, I think people will leave Ibrox relatively happy, as long as Rangers come through it unscathed injury-wise.
It's amazing the change in confidence and the change in perspective. I remember playing, Rangers playing 3 games. They played Aberdeen in the League Cup final, and then went to Elland Road and played Leeds United, and then played Celtic on the Saturday. You know what I mean? And it was just like Rangers at that time went out and monstered everybody. And now it's like heart and mouth time, and you're hoping and praying that nobody's going to turn up and give you a doing. I mean, I think, I'm not saying that people are being dismissive of a European tie. I mean, Rangers are right in the mix in this, where they stand just now in terms of the points they've won and the results that they've got. So they don't want to lose. I don't see them not qualifying for the knockout stages, but they don't want to lose any momentum that they've got in that front either. And you would like to think there's enough about the players within the squad that could dust themselves down after a game at Ibrox against Tottenham, or regardless of who it is, and lift themselves again for a cup final. The fact that we are talking about Rangers players struggling to pick themselves up for 2 big games in a week maybe tells you everything you want to know about the mindset is maybe the current players.
I mean, this is what it's all about being a Rangers player and being a Rangers fan. Spurs in the Europa on Thursday, Celtic in a cup final on the Sunday. If you're a Rangers player, if you're employed by Rangers and you can't get up for these games, and you need some sort of motivation to get up for them, then to be quite honest, you're at the wrong club. Because this is what it's like at Rangers. I think we've got a chance on Thursday, to be honest. There will be changes. I personally think Barami and Diamandi will come in for Hadji and probably Danilo as well. And I think Igaman will keep his place up front. And I think he'll go with Danilo next Sunday in the cup final. It's just a hunch, but I'm probably going to be wrong. At the back, I think Proper will probably come back in, because you're going to need to give him game time at some point. And I suppose if you're going to do it in one of the 2 games, you would rather it was on Thursday. But then again, Spurs, they've been in a real sugary peg now. I mean, is Postecoglou even going to be picking that team on Thursday? Who knows? Has he been scared off for a return to Ibrox? Who knows? But, well, Stewart, he get gubbed 3-0 the last time he went there in that really important, pre-season friendly where Cantwell and Suter and Sakala scored. So, I mean, to be fair, he did only win 1 game at Ibrox. I know he done a job on us like the rest of the time, but he never had the best record at Ibrox. So you never know. The guy might be running scared of coming back. You never know, and he might just be trying to get himself the sack, so he doesn't need to come back on Thursday. But it'll be interesting. I mean, they've not been in great form, and they've actually picked up a couple of injuries today during their loss to Chelsea. I know that centre, I think Romero went off injured. I think Brennan Johnson's got a bit of an injury as well. So who knows? When was the last time we beat an English team in Europe? Would it have been Leeds United? Probably. I'm not too sure. It's been a while. Obviously, Liverpool was an embarrassment a couple of years ago. We don't want another repeat of that. I don't think it will be. But no, I think we've got a chance. Stuart, I mean, do you think we can go into this thinking that, we've got a chance of getting something and anything we pick up as a bonus? So, what's your feelings on how we as a fan base should be feeling going into that one?
I think if we take a step back and try and play it as a damage limitation exercise against Spurs, you will be damaged. I don't, Spurs, I know they lost and they were 2 goals up, but they actually scored 3 goals against Chelsea today. And at times they look pretty comfortable going forward. Defensively, they're shambles. And when you've got a manager who refuses to be pragmatic in any way, shape, or form, these things happen. I still think it'll be at the Rangers game, regardless, even if it's just the television studio as a talking head. But he's bringing a team that's a very capable team to Glasgow, and everybody will need to be on their best behaviour, even to try and get any kind of result out of it. Again, I think if we sit back and people are saying this is a free hit, but if you sit back waiting to be hit, these teams will strike you and strike you hard. So the last thing you need going into a cup final is to suffer a defeat, and the last thing you really need is to just find yourself losing by 2 or 3 or 4. So there's a lot riding in Thursday night. Let's not kid ourselves.
And saying that though, I mean, there's been plenty of times where Rangers have came off the back of great results in Europe and then we've maybe went into certain games overconfident. So the way that this team is, I don't know if we can afford to either win or lose this game. We would just rather be only playing it on Thursday before the Celtic game, because either way you can think of it will affect us positively or negatively. I think we are possibly the only team in the world we could go out on Thursday and absolutely gub Spurs, and then we could get gubbed on Sunday in the cup final, and that genuinely wouldn't be a surprise just because of how we are as a team. Chris, you mentioned the team there. How do you think it will be in terms of the actual occasion and the match itself with Spurs, these sort of issues that they're having now? I mean, how do you see it in terms of, do you think it's just a free hit this one on Thursday and we'll see what happens?
I don't think Rangers really get free hits. Like you mentioned about if you can't get up for it, then you're at the wrong football club. I think if you consider any game a free hit at Ibrox, then you're at the wrong football club as well. There's a demand, there's a pressure, there's an expectation to go and take the game to anyone, to compete with anyone, to try and beat anyone. I think you mentioned the Liverpool game there earlier on. That was also a hugely difficult night for Rangers. The gulf was just too big. Rangers could easily come away with a sore one on Thursday night, given the relative quality of the squads. But they could easily go and produce a great performance and come away with a really encouraging result to then, as I say, bounce into Sunday. There's obviously going to be added noise round about this one, given that Postecoglou is coming back. But it has to be, if you're not looking forward to it, then no, why? I'll give your ticket to someone else. It has to be one of these special European nights for Rangers. There's a great opportunity there for them. In terms of the competition overall, I think they've done enough already. The win in Nice a couple of weeks ago was an unexpected result. If you look at how you expected this new format to pan out, I don't think many people would have put Rangers down for a win in Nice. Certainly not in that manner. Man United in a few weeks, who knows what that's going to be. That's obviously going to be a difficult fixture as well, but that could turn out to be anything. That last game against Union is almost the safety net for Rangers, so you would expect them, if they've not already done enough, which it looks like they already have done, that should be the game that is that key safety net. So it does give them a bit more freedom heading into Thursday. There's not that pressure to get a result in terms of qualifying, but there's still pressure to get a result and put in a performance just because you're pulling on the Rangers jersey.
Lastly, Stuart, in terms of the manager's future, and you did mention it earlier, but how big is this week for him on a personal level? Because I don't want to say that we've turned the tide, because, all right, we've won 4 games in a row. The Nice game was good, but let's look at the quality opposition we've been up against in Scotland. We should be winning those games anyway, so I'm not going to say that we've done that, but we have came back into a bit of form, and now we go Spurs on Thursday, Celtic Sunday in the Cup. For me, Sunday is the big one, not just because it's a cup, it's Celtic, but for him personally, he's never beaten Celtic And at the end of the day, if you can't beat Celtic as a Rangers manager, then sadly you're no use to us. But do you think, if and I'm not saying everything's sorted, but if we can get two big results this week, do you think that's maybe buying him a bit more time, or could that actually be him turning the corner?
I mean, I know he was just through the door and literally just put his legs under the table. He had won a trophy last year, which is all well and good. I think you're still having to judge him on what he has done. That was somebody else's team then, even though he steered them in the right direction. I think he's looking for a big result himself to basically make his mark or put his stamp on this particular team. Hence the reason why Sunday's so important. Who would have thought a League Cup would have been that important to Rangers, but that's where they are just now. I think he needs a win against Celtic for the reasons that you've mentioned. But above all else, it's just to prove that Rangers still can win cups and Rangers still can win trophies and do it against a team that is generally regarded as being the best in Scotland. If you do that, then it's a worthy, a worthy result. I think if, too often, and this is just not the current manager, other managers have gone into games against Celtic in finals and the likes, even when Rangers have been the better team and came out and had nothing to show for it. So I think he'll be looking at two big games, one to put his wits against a top English side, but equally he'll know the value of a win next Sunday. And if he can do that, he buys himself a bit of time, but he also keeps a bit of pressure onto the board or whoever's running Rangers just now. And as much as, he's won a trophy for them, does that give him X number of months of good grace, or does it mean that, you've won one trophy, you've hardly done anything else this year?
Chris, in terms of next Sunday then, might be an easy or a difficult question, but how can we get over that line? Because we've seen against Celtic in the past at Hampden just how close and how tight it's been. Even if you go back to the two games that, when Michael Beale was there a couple of seasons ago, it was about 2-1 and 1-0. They were tight games and they could have went either way. The Scottish Cup final, you're a dodgy refereeing decision and, better goalkeeping by Jack Butland away from winning that, in my opinion. So it's close and, let's be fair, apart from the game at Parkhead earlier this season where they did gub us, the games against Celtic have been quite close, but we just always seem to be on the wrong side of it. How can you actually turn that round and make sure that we're on that narrow side of victory next Sunday?
Well, better Rangers sides than this one have lost games against Celtic. Better Rangers managers than Philippe Clement have lost games against Celtic. But I think it almost takes it back to 2018 when Gerrard came in. There's that mental hurdle that has to be overcome now. Now Rangers suffered so many bad days in the derby before that. One of the Gerrard's first tasks was to get over that, was to end that sequence. He had to kind of climb that mental mountain. Almost didn't happen in the first one. The Ryan Jack game, I think that was in a big moment. Time will tell how long a period and what kind of future Clement actually has. But for this group of players, for this iteration of the Rangers squad, they need a result like that. They need to show that they can beat Celtic. They have to get over that particular hurdle. Now you mentioned the Parkhead game. Rangers well beaten on that day. A couple of them have been tighter. Also, the Scottish Cup final was tight, but they couldn't get over the line. And ultimately, good teams find ways to win. Celtic are a good team on that day. They found a way to win, and chances are the most likely outcome is a Celtic victory. But there's Rangers, as you say, it's a one-off game. It's a cup final. The old cliches of form goes out the window and anything can happen. All of that kind of comes into Rangers' favour. They have to hope that is the case. But it's a day where Clement has to get it spot on. Every player has to get it spot on. And you're then looking at, well, if Celtic aren't quite at it, I said that then potentially opens the door for Rangers.
Well, we'll need to see what happens with that one anyway in the following week coming, but it's definitely an exciting week ahead. But I think that's a good point to finish up on, guys. We'll be back on Friday, ladies and gentlemen at home, at 9 o'clock. Not quite sure who's going to be on yet. The schedules will be out later this week, but we will be back on Friday at 9 with a review of that game against Spurs and a preview of the Big Cup final next Sunday as well. Obviously, we're live on YouTube this evening, and we will be also on all of your usual podcast providers such as Apple Music and Spotify in the coming hours as well. And if you've just joined us, you can always rewind back to the start to listen to all the great wisdom from there as well. All it's left for me now to do is thank my guest, Stuart. Thanks for coming on, sir.
No, thoroughly enjoyed it.
Wonderful. Chris, thanks for coming on, mate.
No problem at all. Anytime.
Not a problem at all. Thanks, guys, and thanks to the viewers at home. See you soon. Bye-bye.